everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you how I made these hot chocolate mugs out of cake. Okay, before we get started, if you see any tools or supplies that I'm using that you think you could use, if you check the link in the description below, it should be able to help you out. Now, to start making my hot chocolate mugs cakes, I used a glass Pyrex bowl. It is a little one. I think at the widest it's about 6 inches. I am greasing it up with some Crisco, just some vegetable shortening so it doesn't stick. And I am taking my cake batter. I just made some chocolate cake and I tried to get fancy with it and put like little mini marshmallows and chocolate chips in it because I'm like, look how fancy I am. I'm making like real hot chocolate cake here. It didn't work. The marshmallows just like melted into the cake and it was good, just really dense, but nothing special. So yeah, just keep that in mind, just, whenever cake you decide to use. So anyway, I put the batter into my bowl. I put the bowl in the oven, and then I turn the oven on. If you're going to cook in your glass bowls, do not use a preheated oven. You will shatter your glass. I just learned, and I feel stupid for not having realized it sooner, that you could use metal bowls. If you have a metal mixing bowl, you could just stick that in the oven, and it's just like using any other metal caking pan. As long as there's no rubber or plastic grip on it, yeah. So either way, I used a bowl, took it out, baked it as you see. I leveled off the top because it was kind of dried out and crunchy. And now I'm wrapping it up in some saran wrap and then I'm going to stick it in the fridge to chill and become more solid. I need these guys pretty firm. And I wrap it in saran wrap so it doesn't dry out. I know if you leave it in the fridge for just a little while, it's not going to dry out. But I forget things when I walk away. So yeah, I take a little preventative action. I like my cake to stay moist. Now, I took it out of the fridge. It's nice and firm, as you can see. I can manhandle it very comfortably. And I am giving a very generous slather of buttercream, just vanilla buttercream, on the outside of it. I am not going to do the top, or what is right now the bottom. I am just going to do the domed part. I'm going to leave the flat alone for now. So I'm putting on my good layer, as you see, trying to make it nice and even. Once I get it on nice and thick, then I'm going to try to smooth it out as best I can. I suppose you could do the crumb coat and then stick it in the fridge to chill. Then pull it out again and then do your second layer of icing. Sometimes, I may have mentioned this before, I get lazy and I just do a thick layer on the outside and then I call it good. This was a cake for my family. I was just making them for fun. So this is what I made. I ended up with enough cake batter, by the way, to make 3 of these little domes. But I put one aside, one of the ones that I had wrapped up in saran wrap, and I had it left it sitting on the counter, and I came out and found my son eating it like a giant apple. So he thought that I had put it aside because it was scraps. I wasn't going to use it. So you're only going to get to see 2, but I made enough for 3 in my one cake mix. Now, once you get it iced, put it back in the fridge. Take your other one out of the fridge where it was wrapped in saran wrap, unwrap it, cover it in buttercream icing, again, just on the domed part, and when you get it all nice and layered, slather it up. You're going to smooth it out as best you can, and then you're going to stick it back in the fridge again because you need it to keep setting up. And also when you do this, try to give yourself a little bit of a flat bottom, or in this case, a flat top in your icing. So when you turn it over, it will have a nice flat surface to sit on. It won't teeter-totter or weeble wobble for the older folks out there. And you know exactly what I mean if you know what weebles are. So anyway, now they've been in the fridge for a while. You can see the icing's nice and firm. I'm going to unstick it from my cake plate there, flip it over, and there you go. Now I'm going to do the same thing to my second one, flip it over, and I'm going to add icing now to these tops. I didn't do it before because I didn't want to stick them in the fridge while the icing was still soft because that would glue it to the cake plate. And then if I tried to take it off the cake plate, most likely it would just rip a chunk of icing and maybe take some cake with it. It could damage it, so I just did it in steps to make it a little bit safer. Just hedging my bets here a bit. Alright, so I've covered the tops, smooth the sides, try to keep it nice and neat. Stick them back in the fridge again, but this time leave that soft, wet top exposed so that will harden up. Now they've taken them out again. I've got light blue fondant. This is fondant because you use it to cover a cake. I rolled it out, laid it over one of my little bowls here, or now my mug, and I'm going to use a pizza cutter that I happen to have in the drawer, trim off the extra, flip it over, and just smooth up the sides. You can see if there's any little extra sticking up, just trim it off. I used a pair of scissors. I didn't show it because it wasn't that exciting. but you want it nice and flat at the top. Now I flipped it back over again because it's still nice and cold, nice and firm, and I'm using my palms to try to smooth out any of the bumps or ridges on the sides. I'm also using the fondant paddle, but it kind of made like a flat edge, so I found that, using my hands worked better. So once you get it nice and smooth that you're happy with it, then put it aside and maybe stick it, if you can guess, you get 10 points, back in the fridge. Did you get the 10 points? I bet you did. Okay, so now I've got my 2 little bowls. Gonna stick them back in the fridge. Goodbye, bowls. Now, I'm gonna give them a little bit of time. Once again, let that fondant get firm. Now I take them out again, and I rolled out some extra fondant into that long tube you see there, and I'm wrapping it around the base of my cup. This is going to become the foot, I guess, of the cup, the base of the cup, how they always have that like little lip that they sit on, so they are stable and firm, I guess. I don't know. That was the idea here. So I wrapped it around as you saw. I'm just using the back of my finger to kind of press against the side of it. That's going to press it into the cake itself, make it nice and tight, smooth it out, give it a nice flat edge. See? Looking pretty good. And that big wrinkle I had there, I'm just using my fondant paddle, smooth it out again. So I'm turning my cake around until I find the best side. Your cake always has a pretty side, kind of like a person, right? When you take a picture. Wrapping my extra piece of fondant around the base that I just rolled into a long tube, smoothing it with the back side of my finger so it kind of presses in there, make it nice and even. Just trim off the extra as you saw me do with the scissors in the back. And there you go. Stick them back in the fridge. All right, this is gum paste this time. This is not fondant, this is gum paste. It's the same color, light blue, but I want it to get firm and harden and hold its shape. These are going to become the handles of my mugs. So I'm just making kind of like a question mark shape out of it, nothing real fancy. I had just rolled out a long piece, flattened it with my paddle as you saw, and I'm just leaving it curved like this. So it's a little flat at the top, kind of curves at the bottom. If it turns out to be too long in any place, I can always trim it. I'm making a couple of snowflake prints or stamps or whatever you want to call them here out of, this is again gum paste that I have. You could use fondant if you wanted to, but I'm using gum paste, and my husband just snatched it off the screen because he thought it was neat. They're new. They're new to me, so he thought it was neat. They're okay. I like them. I wish that they were 6-pointed instead of 5, but you get to what you get when you order cheap. Okay, so I made 2 of them. I'm sticking them on the side of my mug. The mug, because it keeps coming in and out of the fridge, it's got a little bit of condensation on it, enough to make the gum paste decoration stick right to it. So now my mugs are very festive. It's not necessarily Christmas, but definitely could be. Or you'd have like a nice winter-themed cake as well for any time. I use a piece of dried spaghetti in the top of my handle, stick it into the side of the cake as you see. I broke off a little piece at the bottom, poke that in. And as you can kind of see there at the top, that piece of dried spaghetti poked out into the handle a little bit too far. My cake was pretty firm. So in order to support it so it didn't damage the handle, it just kind of made that little pressure mark. I put a little piece of paper towel underneath to support it. Now I have some ganache that I made, some nice dark chocolate ganache. I poured it all over the top of my chilled buttercream there. And I'm just using a spoon to smooth it out, and I'm going to cover up all the white icing, but I'm not going to necessarily go over that blue lip. I'm going to go right up to it, and then over to the left side, I'm going to let it drizzle over the side, basically making the drip effect, the drizzle cake effect. And I'm going to do the same thing to my second one. However, if you pay attention to the picture at the end, you're going to see the difference in the 2 cakes. The second cake, this one here, the ganache had cooled off just enough that it was no longer making those long trails down the side. It kind of just stayed thicker. They both look kind of neat, but they didn't quite match. So in theory, I guess I should have heated my ganache up for just a few seconds just to make it a little bit more runny, but I was happy with it. I don't know. It was cute. I liked it. So whatever. It works. Now I realized I forgot to put the handle in my other one, so once again I put a piece of dried spaghetti in the top of the handle, shove it into the cake. Once again it poked through the handle out the back because my cake is really firm, and used a broken little piece at the bottom just to anchor it, just like the first one. Now I am filling a piping bag with whipped cream. I made some homemade whipped cream. I put a little star tip on it. And I am going to cover up almost all of the chocolate ganache that I put down, and I'm going to heap it up so it's kind of heaping up into the middle like a big old thing of whipped cream right on top of your cup of hot chocolate. Fill in any of the little gaps you got, make it messy, make it mounding. I'm going to top it now with some red, white, and gold sprinkles because they look cute. They add some nice color to it. And one more little touch and we're going to be all done with these suckers. So I took a candy cane off my tree, stuck it in there, get another candy cane, stick it in the other one, have it coming off to the side. Like, isn't that cute like that? Yes, it is. And there you go. I wish I could show you the angle, but you can kind of see it. But here's the picture. They come out really nice, and they're fun, they're festive, and they're not too hard. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe because I find that helpful. I've got lots of other videos out there, so please take a look. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.